Donald Trump and this administration are suffering a critical polling collapse where they are even losing Republicans now. This is fascinating data. I want to go over it with you. Now, as many of you know, the gold standard in presidential approval polling is Gallup. Gallup just dropped a bomb on Donald Trump. So let's take a look at the disastrous numbers for this administration, for Republicans, especially going into 2026, which, by the way, we're 11 months from the midterm elections. Now, on the question of Donald Trump's approval has hit yet another low of 36%. This is the lowest Trump's approval has been this entire term. But more than that, across both of his terms, other than the last 2 weeks of his first term, meaning right after the January 6th Trump riots, which is a very unusual situation. Other than that, Trump's approval is now as low as it has ever been and roughly as low as it was in the 14 days of his presidency after the January 6th riots, which were a historically disastrous and anomalous event. A criminally and disgustingly unusual situation, I might add. Richard Nixon is the only president with a worse net approval at this point in the second term than Trump. On the question of partisanship, because we know Republicans like Trump more than independents and more than Democrats, we find that Trump's approval is down among all groups, and each one is notable for its own reasons. First of all, Democrats obviously dislike Trump, but only 3%, not 13, 3% of Democrats approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing. This is notable because with other Republican presidents, more than 3% of Democrats approve. So among Democrats, historically bad number. We then look at independents. Among independents, Trump's approval is down to 25%. Again, historically low. This one matters to us. This one is important in our analysis, especially as we approach midterms, because independents make a huge difference. Not only can independents vote either way, sometimes Republicans, sometimes Democrats, although most are partisan in one direction primarily. But they also can stay home. And with lower turnout in midterms, a group that is outside the expected numbers is more likely to go out and to try to hurt you. And then we look at the approval among Republicans, which we expect to mostly like Trump, also at a historic low of 84%. Now, you might say, wait a second, 84% of Republicans still support Trump? That's sick. How can that be? And of course, you're right to have that reaction. How could it possibly be? But we also have to consider that for Trump, this is a terrible number. It's the worst support among Republicans that Donald Trump has ever had. We then look at issue by issue, and we see that Donald Trump has alienated a ton of Republicans on some issues. If you look at the issue of Ukraine, only 2/3 of Republicans approve of how Trump is handling Ukraine. Trump has failed there. He said he'd have peace within a day of being elected. Then it would be within a day of being sworn in. It would be within a month of being sworn in. It would be within 3 months, and still no dice there. On healthcare, of major importance in these midterms, only 69% of Republicans approve of the job Trump has done on healthcare. And why would they approve? I mean, he's done nothing other than let premiums probably go up explosively unless he finds some way to prevent that in the 20-something days that are left in this year. And meanwhile, the congressional approval numbers are really bad. Only 4% of Democrats, 15% of independents, and incredibly, only 23% of Republicans think that Congress is doing a good job. Now, there is one of the weird things about congressional approval is that in general, you ask the American people, do you approve of the job Congress is doing? And it's like, no, I don't. The numbers are really low. You ask them, do you approve of the job your specific member of Congress is doing? The numbers are way, way higher. So there's kind of two ways to read into this. On the one hand, when everybody says Congress sucks, that's pretty bad for the party in power, which in this case is Republicans. On the other hand, a lot of people think Congress isn't doing a good job, but it's not because of their elected representative. It's because of somebody else. So we zoom out from this, shaping up to be a historic disaster for Republicans in November. We have to make sure that it is. And this is why we have to keep hammering on this. You can It's sort of like nature versus nurture, right? You take a kid, a newborn little baby, what is going to determine what sort of person that baby becomes? Part of it is the stage that is set by the genetic predispositions, right? So we're talking about nature. And then part of it is environmental, it's the nurture. Similarly, we have to look at these polling numbers and we have to look at these midterms the same way. Structurally, Republicans take power in 24, they should lose in 26. Polling, disastrous for Republicans, disastrous for Trump. Those are sort of like the genetic predispositions. Circumstantially and blah, 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 it looks like it should be bad for Republicans. Then what are we going to do? This is like the nurture part. How are we going to nurture these circumstantial predispositions into actually taking, could it be 30 or 40 seats from Republicans in the House? Could it be 50 or 60? Could it be a historic number? Could it be 70, 75? I don't know. We've got 11 months to go, but the predispositions of the circumstances are only part of it. And it's like, what kind of elections are we going to run? What kind of campaigns are we going to run? How are we going to activate voters over the next 11 months? My hope, obviously, is that it will be just a humiliating, resounding defeat. Let me know in the comments, what do you believe happens in the House in November as of right now? And you could say like Republicans +5 or Democrats +40, or what do you believe happens? Remember to leave a like for the video. And I would love it if you hit the subscribe button on YouTube as well. I love it when a box of bottles of wine from Naked Wines shows up at my house. We unpack it. I'm partial to the white wine. My girlfriend is more partial to the red wine. Our sponsor, Naked Wines, is a wine club that will connect you directly with independent winemakers all over the world. This means you are getting world-class wine delivered to your door at up to 60% less than what you would pay in stores. And the reason is very easy. No middlemen, no huge markups, just the winemakers and you. Every box has introduced us to bottles we never would have picked up on our own, makes any regular weeknight dinner feel a little more special, and it's an easy way to enjoy great wine without overthinking it too much, whether you're a wine expert or you're like me and you know virtually nothing at all about wine. Head to nakedwines.com/Pakman. Use the code Pakman as the code and password to get 6 bottles for only $39.99, shipping included. The link is in the description.